They claimed I wasn't related enough to attend my sister's wedding, but as soon as I entered the venue, I turned to face them. Wasn't because of the dress. They assumed I would remain silent because I was too poor or ashamed to attend, but they were unaware that I had painstakingly built something in the shadows and that the girl they laughed at last Christmas was now entering as a millionaire. If this story has already captured your attention, don't forget to subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next, so like and share this video. 2 months ago, I discovered that I wasn't even invited to my own sister's bridal shower. My mother claimed it was too private, and my name was overlooked, but it was only the beginning. 1 week later, I noticed the wedding group chat on my cousin Emma's phone. They had created another one without me, and it wasn't an accident. They were purposeful. They even made fun of the fact that I wouldn't match the style of my sister, Hannah, the golden child, getting married to a tech guy whose family was really wealthy. And all of a sudden our family wanted to appear as if we were royalty, and I, the struggling girl with an arts degree who worked at a small coffee shop and drove a 2006 Toyota, was Aria. I wasn't on brand, but they didn't realize that I was no longer struggling. Instead, they didn't see the late nights I spent working hard at my job to build an online business. They were unaware that I had gone viral on TikTok 3 times, and I kept quiet because I wanted to see how far their silence would go. But it went too far when my dad informed me over the phone, "It's probably better if you sit this one out, you know, just to keep things drama-free." They had raised over $300,000 in the last year alone. I nearly laughed at us, so I kept quiet. I watched every dress, every fake grin, and every post they made online, and I patiently and quietly planned because I knew better. Then, seeking revenge meant allowing them to set the stage for it themselves. On the wedding day, I didn't cry or become angry. Instead, I reserved a private vehicle, dressed in a custom emerald gown, and entered just as the reception began without saying a word. The music paused mid-beat, a perfect filter. She was laughing with her new in-laws near the wedding cake when she saw me, and it seemed as though I had sucked the air out of her. Though technically I kind of did that, I entered the room as though I owned it. I walked past the shocked stares, my chin-high heels echoing across the marble floor, and stopped in the middle of the hall. At that moment, rumors began to circulate. Did Aria crash? Was she wearing a designer dress? Yes, the dress was custom-made and paid for in full, and the diamond bracelet was mine to keep when my Shopify store reached $500,000 in sales. It was my quiet celebration, but now it was part of the reveal. The wedding planner approached me, obviously unsure whether to offer me champagne or escort me out, but before she could say anything, someone tapped the microphone at the DJ booth. Uncle Brad, who is always the loud one and always tries to keep things light, said, "Look who finally made it," with a nervous laugh. The room laughed a little too hard at that one, not because the joke was funny, but because I knew even after everything, they still believed that I was beneath them. I turned slowly, approached the DJ booth, and took the mic without asking. My hands weren't shaking, and I said calmly, "I wasn't invited tonight, but I came to thank you for every snub, every joke, and every time I was called the failure. You pushed me to build something better. Now, I'm just here to drop off your gift," and I gave you a single clap before 2 assistants wheeled in 3 large. Each package was wrapped in black velvet ribbon, and on the front of each was a card with the gold stamp, "From Aria, founder and CEO of Aglow Beauty Incorporated." I murmured, "Wait, she owns that?" Broke the dead silence. With wide eyes, Hannah's fianki's mother, who had previously referred to me as the artistic relative who makes candles or something, said, "You're the girl behind Aglow." My mother, who hadn't returned my calls for weeks, suddenly smiled as if she had known all along. She rushed over with her arms open, as if we were a close-knit mother-daughter pair from a Hallmark film. I nodded once, smiled politely, and put the microphone down without saying anything else. After that, I was no longer embarrassed at the shift in the room. I took a small step back. "But why didn't you tell us that we're so proud of you?" "Do you mean proud like when you advised me not to make the family laugh with my unrealistic business goals, Or proud like when you didn't even send me an RSVP? I didn't let her continue, Mom. It wasn't chaos. It was clarity. Her smile hardened as she looked around anxiously, realizing that people were listening to her lies. You know, we didn't mean that it was only weddings where pandemonium happens, and things slide through the cracks. I turned away and looked at Hannah, who looked like she had seen a ghost. Her flawless wedding makeup couldn't cover up the panic, and she hissed under her breath. You didn't need to make a scene, so I tilted my head. And you didn't need to cut your sister out of your life to please your new in-laws. But now that we're here, she opened her mouth to argue, but her fiancé, Nate, interrupted her before she could speak. Collins, Aria, he asked in a stunned manner, as in the Yellow founder, the same company my company has been trying to partner with. I could almost feel her soul leaving her body, so I nodded softly. Your pitch emails kept ending up in my trash folder. So now I know why. Gasps went through the crowd, and Hannah was furious because her carefully manicured reality was crumbling. I hadn't even said half of what I had planned to say, but I didn't need to because the entire event had changed. As they brought out the wedding cake, I walked to the back patio, leaving the chaos behind, and as the photographer asked for a few solo shots just in case the press picked this up, I wasn't the extra. I was the headline. However, before I could catch my breath, someone followed me outside, and it wasn't who I expected it to be. It was Nate. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years began to creep closer, asking about my products, how I started, and if I could follow them back. I'm not here to cause more drama, he said in a low voice. I just didn't realize you don't seem like the kind of person who hides success. He was slowly unsure of what he wanted, an apology, a deal, or perhaps just damage control, but his expression wasn't. Rather, it was confused, curious, and even a little impressed. I raised my eyebrows and said, and you don't seem like the kind of guy who marries a woman who erases sister. He emitted a tense, uneasy chuckle. Yeah, about that. I've been noticing things. I guess I just didn't want to admit it until tonight. Notice what? He gave me a serious look for the first time, but now I understand what they were afraid of. I asked, folding my arms. Your family is different when you're not around. They talk about you like you're disposable, like your failures make them feel better about their lives. You have not failed. The Aria, for a second, you posed a threat. I was at a loss for words, but before I could react, Hannah burst through the doors, her face smudged with mascara and flushed with anger. Are you really out here flirting with my husband? Nate held up his hands. The man who married my sister had every reason to act foolish. Hannah, please stop talking. We were just discussing something when she suddenly glared at me. You embarrassed me at my own wedding, and now the moment you decided that I wasn't worthy of being here. She looked like she wanted to scream, but Nate turned to her and said something that shut down the entire patio. You lied to me. I didn't steal anything. I stayed silent because there was no need to defend myself because she was unraveling all by herself. Guests started to peek through the glass doors, sensing that the drama had spilled outside. Phones came out, and whispers grew louder. When my phone buzzed, I looked down to see an email from a big investor I had been pursuing for months with the subject line, saw the wedding. Let's talk Monday. Interested in a deal. You had claimed that Aria was toxic, jealous, and lazy, but she had never disclosed to me that she had founded one of the fastest growing beauty brands in the nation. I turned and went back inside after grinning without saying anything more. Because this narrative wasn't I was here to reclaim my place on my terms, not to exact revenge. The DJ was now uncertain whether to play the next song or announce a scandal, so when I passed him, I gave him a comforting nod and said, play something upbeat. Let's not ruin the party. As I walked back into the reception hall, something inside of me changed. I no longer felt the burden of being the disappointment, the strange sister, the dreamer with no plan. After all, it's still her wedding. In a matter of minutes, people began to approach one by one. An aunt who had once said that I would never succeed without a real job leaned in and whispered, we always knew you had potential. The music suddenly resumed, and everyone awkwardly went back to their seats as if nothing had happened. But the tension lingered like smoke after a fire. I found a quiet corner, sat down, and sipped the champagne that had not been offered to me earlier. I should have stood up for you, but I let your mother and Hannah push you aside. That was wrong, he said quietly. I didn't answer right away, but I just looked at him for the first time in years. He wasn't talking down to me. He was talking to me like an equal, like someone who had finally earned a chance. This cousin asked if I could help her start her own small business. The same cousin who once told everyone I was delusional, even my father. I told you to sit at the table. You just had to see me. And now you do. You didn't have to defend me. Hannah sat slouched in a chair across the room, her flawless hair falling out of place, her makeup smudged, and guests avoiding her as if she had crashed a wedding. Her meticulously planned dream day had become a mirror, and all she could see was the reflection of everything she had tried to hide. As the evening wore on, Nate discreetly gave me a business card. He said, "You've got my full attention. No pressure, just respect." I took it, put it in my clutch, and grinned, thinking about it because I wasn't desperate anymore. I wasn't invisible, and I wasn't the joke at the family dinner table. I was Aria Collins, CEO, self-made, uninvited, but unforgettable, and that night I didn't just walk into my sister's wedding. I walked into the rest of my life with my head held high, my name respected, and my power finally in my own hands. They couldn't stop talking about the only name that wasn't on the guest list.